Right. Hello and welcome to another basketball podcast. I'm your host, Justin Coben, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Marco Amendola. We've been going throughout the NBA and giving one hot take for every team. Today we're doing the playoff teams from last year in the Western Conference. This will be our final episode of the series. If you haven't watched our hot takes for the Eastern Conference or the first half of the Western Conference, please check them out on our channel. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. We keep trying to grow our channel, and every subscriber means a lot to us. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit the like button. It means a lot. With all that being said, Marco, how are you today?
Well, Justin, I've been trying to cool off all day by the AC because we've been cooking up these hot takes. We're on to the final eight, and frankly, I've been sweating.
Yeah, did you write that one down?
Oh, that was off the cuff. That's just how I feel right now.
Wow. Yeah. I'm ready to go too. I liked our last episode. We gave some really spicy ones for the West. I think it started off really spicy for me with my Wemby take. So if you haven't heard that, go back and watch our last episode. Marco had some spicy ones in there too. This one, we ended off with the Kings, who just missed the playoffs last season. Okay, so Marco, this is a little weird because we had the Los Angeles Lakers, who ended the season with the worst record of the playoff teams in the Western Conference. But the Pelicans actually ended up as the 8th seed. So we'll start there. We'll start with the Pelicans. Marco, what's your take for the New Orleans Pelicans?
My take. The Pelicans, a team with a lot of talent, a lot of mouths to feed. I think Trey Murphy is going to be their leading scorer. Now, last year,
I like that.
It's last year the order was Zion, Ingram, CJ McCollum. All three of them had over 20 points per game. Zion was only in the 22, so he wasn't crazy high. Trey was around 15 points per game. And now you have DeJounte Murray in the mix now. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. I think Trey is the perfect complement to all these guys. DeJounte, Zion. He's their best shooter. I think there's a good chance Zion's scoring goes down. Ingram, who knows if he's going to be on the team. CJ McCollum, I could see his scoring going down. I think Trey easily could get to 22, 23 points per game and just be like a little bit ahead of the other guys. I think he's going to make a big jump. And I think it's telling the Pelicans feel that he's a bigger part of their future than Ingram, at least right now.
Yeah, he has just been a sniper for all 3 years of his career. Shot 7.8 threes per game, made 3 of them last year. Very high efficiency there, 38% three-point shooter. Could maybe get it above 40 even on high volume, which is crazy. Their team is very weird where we don't know what Ingram's deal is. They don't really have a center. Zion, I know, played 14% of the time at center last season, so maybe they go Zion at center and they go smaller. Ingram, Trey Murphy's like 6'8", sneaky, which is crazy. So they're a weird team. Kind of lends into my take, which is Daniel Theis. It's just Daniel Theis will thrive with the Pelicans and revitalize his career. And it's just my belief in Yves Missi. I've never seen him play basketball yet. He's their only other center there. Theis shoots pretty efficiently from 3 nowadays. He starts for Germany. He's only 32. He's not like a fossil yet. He's up there in age, but he shot 37% from 3 last year. They need a spacer next to Zion. If they're not going to go Zion at the 5, which I don't think they're going to commit to doing that. He's only 6'6". He'll get beat defensively. He definitely can abuse those mismatches on offense with those bigger guys, but defensively he might struggle. So I think they'll go Theis. I feel like most people are buying into it's going to be Missi, but I think that Theis is proven and he's going to be more imperative to their team than Missi this year.
Yeah, and being a Celtics fan, we've seen Tice play a lot, and I think he's generally underrated. Like he's
Hmm.
solid. He can show you some flashes on offense, rebounds hard, plays hard. Gets the worst whistle in the NBA. But yeah, I could see him starting playing like 24,
Yeah.
25 minutes a game and just being sneaky good and like playing that role of yeah underrated small big man that doesn't demand a lot, like unselfish, good fit alongside their more talented players.
And it's telling that he starts for Germany over like Mo Wagner, who's like, you know,
Yeah,
pretty good NBA center, pretty good backup big. I feel like there's a world where Tice is better than he's been given credit for the last couple of years. I don't know if he's just been injured and that's been the problem. He kind of looked good when he was on the Clippers last year too, in spurts. So um, I would like them to go out and get a center. This isn't me saying, oh, they're fine at center, but I feel like he's going to be more important than people think. So
yeah, I like that one.
I like yours too. Trey Murphy is awesome. He's going to be so good down the road. And then we can jump to the Lakers now. I guess I can give my take first. Okay, so my take, we're turning back the clock for this one. We got Bronny James on the Lakers now. I'm not doing a Bronny James take. I'm doing a LeBron James take. LeBron James in his age 40 season will be top five in MVP voting.
Yeah, okay.
And I feel like the Lakers, they lost Torian Prince. It's not really anything, but he's going to want to show out his kids on the team now. He's going to want to prove that he's a winner still. He's 40 years old. It's like another reason for him to fight a little bit harder. He's got the Olympics. He's playing with stars. He's going to watch all these young stars like who are blooming, and he's going to be like, you know what? I want to put out this season. And he shot over 40% from three. He's been more and more efficient every season. He's still playing 35 minutes per game. He's not really in the MVP conversation anymore. But if the Lakers are, in the playoff mix, and he's still scoring, getting the assists, getting the counting stats that he always does, I could see him in the mix. I really could.
Yeah, they're one of the teams in the West, the one of many teams perhaps that the their window and where they could be seated is so big. Like they could easily be
Yeah.
like the 12 seed, and it just goes terribly wrong, and it's just more of a LeBron with his son fun season, or maybe they just get hot and guys play well and they're like a top 4 or 5 seed. So yeah, I think that's a good take. Like it definitely depends on where they are in the standings, and but yeah, the production you would think would be there, and he's doing things at his age that no one's ever done before. So nothing would
That's what I
surprise
mean.
me.
Like,
Yeah, nothing would surprise me with him.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's an anomaly. Like, Brady was an anomaly.
Yeah,
There are certain guys that kind of transcend age. And I feel like it could be his last season. There's a world where it's his last season. He's got Bronny, and this is what he was wanting his entire career was to get Bronny and to play with his son. So he finally got that goal. And I feel like it's a season where he kind of goes all out, puts his gas to the pedal to the metal, and he grinds out a playoff berth and potentially is in the MVP mix one last time.
I like it. Their roster is not as competitive, in my opinion, as some of these other teams in the
Yeah,
West. So I struggled to kind of find a guy to focus on, but I landed on my another one of my fantasy guys, Austin Reeves. Uh, I think he's going to make a little bit of history, and he'll have a 50-40-90 season. 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. Last year, he was pretty close, so maybe it's not that hot, but he was at 48.6%, 36.7 from three. And then I think the toughest one would be getting up. He was at 85% from the free throw line. I'm pretty high volume.
that's what I was going to
Yeah,
say.
he draws a lot of contact, so 90% is tough when you're taking 4 or 5 a game. But I think he's really good, and I think he's kind of the perfect glue guy on this team. That after LeBron and AD, he's their best player, and like just does a lot of things for them. And yeah, I think I was looking at his 3-point shooting across last year, and he started off kind of slowly. His scoring was down early, and then he got closer to 40% like as the months went on. So I think if he cuts out those 2 months of slump, like he could easily shoot 40% from three. And yeah, I think he's a guy to watch like in the post Lakers LeBron era for me, where he could put up really big numbers. And this could be maybe his last
Mhm.
shot at 50, 40, 90 on his lower volume.
Right. That's totally true. I mean, he's a guy who does shoot very well from three. I think the year before last, he was 39.8%. So you're right. You're right there with 3-point percentage, like you said. Yeah, I was gonna say exactly what you said about the free throws. It's just he's not quite there, but if he's such a good free throw shooter that it's within the realm of possibility, and he kind of does a little bit of everything on offense too. He's a really fun player. I would argue that D'Angelo Russell's probably a little bit better offensively than he is, but defensively, Reeves makes up for that. They're probably you're right. He's the third best player, like overall, I would say.
There was a game when they played the Celtics last year, and LeBron and AD were both out. And my friend had tickets, and he was all disappointed that he was missing. Like he was just like, "Oh well, the Celtics are just going to blow them out now." And I was like, I don't know. We could have an Austin Reeves game, and then he just absolutely destroyed the Celtics, and they won. And I was like, I told you, like he's good. He's a real player.
I remember that game actually.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, exactly. When he gets usage, there's been times where he just pops off. He could be a guy if they ever move him where he could be really successful somewhere
that's
else.
true.
Um, it just depends on which route they go. If they are like in the Zach LaVine business, I always use him as an example, or someone else. Him or D'Angelo Russell could really pop off offensively for another team. He just kind of limited with the usage of LeBron and AD, obviously. And then up next, we got the Dallas. Oh no, not the Dallas Mavericks. The Phoenix Suns.
Yeah. So this,
What? Yeah, what's your
I'll
take for
go
the Suns?
the Suns. I'll be transparent here to our audience. I couldn't think of anything to say for the Suns.
Me neither.
They were the last team that I got to. They're just not interesting to me anymore. Like I wouldn't be shocked if they were the 2 seed and had a great regular season. I wouldn't be shocked if it falls apart. They miss the playoffs completely. So my hot take, since they're just to me like the most bled team that just anything could happen, I think they're going to have the most drama out of any team. I think they're going to be sneaky, just a train wreck. Maybe Booker requests a trade. Maybe Durant requests a trade. Maybe Nurkic wins the playoff series. Maybe they're just a good team. A lot going on. They have a new coach, Budenholzer, who I think he's kind of a hard ass. I think I think he's not afraid to talk to the stuff. Like I feel like he's intense. They have a crazy owner. They're gonna make some sort of splash. I don't know what it's gonna be, but yeah, to me they're just the most. Wouldn't be shocked if anything happens. And I feel like the Suns, they always are in the middle of everything somehow.
Yeah, it's kind of a cop out take, but I'm kind of doing a cop out take too. I'm like,
Yeah,
the Suns are so impossible. It's right. It's true. Like, there's a case to be made. Like Budenholzer's a regular season coach. He got the Bucks to multiple one seeds. Like they won a final, they won a championship kind of despite him. Um, so it's a little weird there. You've seen the stars are always injured, and KD and Beal and Booker's probably the most durable of the three, but um, they're just a mystery box, and it could go either way. I'm gonna go the negative route for the Suns. My hot take for the Suns: in an effort to save face after a bad start to the season, they're gonna explore trades for one of their stars. So I don't know if that's going to be Booker, if it's going to be KD, if it's going to be Beal, but if they're really struggling out the gates, there's a world where the Rockets come swinging and say, I want Kevin Durant, I want Devin Booker. Here is a ton of picks. Here's Reed Shepard, here's Cam Whitmore, here's all of these young players as well. And how can the Suns say no to that, really? The Pacers come with, like I said in a different pod, Benedict Mathurin picks, all these other guys. They have Doug McDermott for filler. How do the Suns say no to like a Kevin or a Beal or a Kevin Durant for 4 picks, 5 picks in these young guys? There's a world these this is a real possibility. So I'm gonna go negative with the Suns on this one.
and just going deep into their picks, like they don't own any of their picks until 2028. Like
Yeah.
they, and throughout 2031, they only have one first round pick, and that's in 2031. Like you could see them just going the Nets route and being like, all right, like we're just gonna our losses, get as many picks as we can, and just yeah, they're in a really tough spot.
Yeah, and in Nets fashion, like you just said, they could go to the Rockets, who have the Suns' own picks. They could get them back for, Kevin Durant or someone else like that. They could try to retain their own picks, have a little bit of control in their future, be able to draft some guys with their own picks. Could be a route they go. If it goes south, they're forced to either hard commit south
Yeah,
or just run it with what they got. They have no assets to work with, so it's a tough one.
and they would be smart to target a team like the Rockets that seems desperate to get a star. Like I think
Mhm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do for sure. Up next, after the Suns, another team with some question marks, the Dallas Mavericks, being the 5 seed last year, made the finals. What are your thoughts? What's your hot take?
My hot take is that Derek Lively will be top five in the NBA in offensive rebounds per game. So offensive rebounds per game is a little bit weird, right? The guy who was at the top from last year is Clint Capella, tied with Mitchell Robinson at 4.6 offensive rebounds per game. Those guys only played 25, 26 minutes per night. It's not like they're heavy load guys. Lively's kind of another one of those guys who, played in the teens to 20 minutes per game when Gafford got there, but he averaged 2.5 offensive rebounds per game. It's kind of what his bread and butter, his calling card is. Um, so I could see him with Clay now sniping from distance, maybe bricking some threes. He has a lot of 3-point shooters kind of there, just chucking away, just kind of cleaning up the glass all day long, and maybe being in the 3.5 to 4 offensive rebounds per game range, especially if something happens to Gafford or one of their bigs.
Yeah, I like that, and it's true about offensive rebounding as a stat. Like it's more times than not the guys that don't necessarily have big minutes, but they're just constantly moving. They're constantly there, and we saw Lively's energy throughout the playoffs.
Exactly.
He was pretty raw and was already effective. So I like it, and yeah, interesting pairing with Gafford, but I like him a lot.
Mhm.
My take: the Dallas Mavericks will struggle to make the play-in. They're going to have a finals hangover. I don't believe in their talent, and I know that's maybe harsh after they made the finals, but Luka, another year tired, I think the conditioning is a real problem.
Mhm.
Clay, I don't know if I believe in Clay as much as I'd like to think it's a fun fit and he'll have success there. I just don't know. His 3-point shooting has been kind of dropping. The defense is declining. Exum, Hardy, like I don't love any of their players outside of Luka and Kyrie. Like Quinn Grimes, okay. Najee Marshall. I think Josh Green was sneaky important to them. He just through the
Mhm.
regular season over the past couple of years, he was consistently shooting the ball well, consistently playing defense. They lost Derrick Jones Jr., like two guys that really were a big part of their defensive identity. They're gaining an old Clay. Like, I don't know. The West is so loaded. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be shocked if they're not really in the mix next year. And the year before they made the finals, they were similarly, not in the play-in. It allowed them to draft Lively 10th overall, so they kind of like tanked for that spot. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of teams in the West are going to be much improved, and they're going to be moving backwards.
It's totally possible. So I did the cop out thing where I didn't pick a direction for them because I'm so unsure with them.
Yeah,
So I just kind of avoided it. In an ideal world, they got the perfect person in for their team. If Clay is healthy, if Clay is a even close to his former self, then it's like the perfect guy. It's the exact thing they lacked in their playoff run
Yeah.
was that like pure shooter next to Luka, next to Kyrie. They had these open guys in the corner in the finals, just could not hit a three. So if Clay is who Clay is or has been, then he could be amazing for them and be a game changer, bring them to a top seed. And like some clips we've been seeing, if Clay is not very spry, is getting blown by on defense, can't really is shooting under 40% from three, then they could have some real issues there. He kind of made the Warriors worse last year. Could he be a cancer to the Mavs too and drop them out of the playoffs? It's a real possibility.
And I'm saying this as a Luka fan. Like, he's probably my favorite player not on the Celtics. So it pains me to say this. I'm not a Luka hater. I'm not like I honestly, yeah. I mean, if Clay's defense is bad, imagine what their defense is going to be like with Luka, Kyrie, and Clay all on the floor. Like, Clay's not shooting well. What is that lineup? That's not going to
exactly.
Games. And there's only so much like Lively Gafford can do. You like their rim protection, but I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just said about defense, Derek Jones Jr. was such a vital part of their defensive identity last season, and in the playoffs especially. So losing him is going to be, I think, worse for them than it is good for the Clippers, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, I think it's a huge piece to lose there, losing their starting three, their defensive identity, and getting a guy who has been shown to be not that laterally quick after many, many leg surgeries. So, it's a problem there potentially.
All right, up next, the Clippers, and I like this one. I think this is one of my better takes. 4 seed last year, under the radar, had a pretty good regular season. I think they're going to have a better record this season than the Philadelphia 76ers.
Wow.
And last year, do you want to guess who had more wins last year, Philly or Clippers?
Because you're asking me, no, it's probably the Clippers.
It was the Clippers. They had 51. Philly had 47 with Embiid missing a lot. Sure. Yeah. So the story is they're losing Paul George. They added, like we said, Derek Jones Jr., Batum, Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter Jr. Don't really know what we're going to get out of him, but they have a lot of experience playing without Paul George. I think they're a sneaky, well-coached team. I think they're used to having these depth guys just play a lot of minutes. They have their own stadium now, Intuit Dome, no longer in the shadows at Staples Center or whatever it's called now, Crypto.com Arena. I think the fans are going to be hyped up. I think they're going to be a really fun team. Obviously, it depends on how much Kawhi plays. Like, he played kind of a lot last year. Harden was pretty good last year. I like some of their depth pieces. I think they'll be in the mix in the West, and I think it's not crazy to say they could get 50 wins. Philly takes a couple steps back, like Embiid gets hurt. Paul George isn't as good as we think. I think it's possible, and I'm probably higher on the Clippers than most people are right now.
It's funny. I don't disagree with you, which is weird. I was gonna say, so what's funny is that the Paul George is on the Clippers, or sorry, Paul George is on the Sixers, and James Harden is on the Clippers. They kind of swapped, which is funny. I never really thought about that dynamic. So I feel like these teams are just trying these like mega stars and seeing if it works. If it doesn't, then they're just going to try a new one. It's just funny how the NBA kind of takes these different cases on. But yeah, like if Kawhi is durable, if he's not resting a lot of back to backs, if they got a lot of depth in there. They got Nick Batum in. They brought in who was the guy you just said?
Jones and Chris.
Oh yeah, Derek Jones Jr., the guy I just mentioned too. Yeah, and Chris Dunn. They have a lot of pieces. They're kind of more balanced now. They're very like star heavy last year. My take kind of goes hand in hand. I'm cool with the world that you just put out there for them. And my take is that Norman Powell will win the Sixth Man of the Year award. And they have no Russ off the bench anymore. He was like a high usage guy, just kind of like slashing through the lanes. their offense is going to be very like lethargic. I feel like at times it's Kawhi, it's Harden, it's iso ball, or it's Harden kind of driving and kicking to these like shooters in the corner. They're going to need another guy to generate a lot of offense off the bench. They definitely do. If Batum's starting, if Derek Jones is starting, Zubats, it's like very not sexy their offense. So they need that kind of spark plug who hits threes, who create his own shot like Norman Powell. And I do think the Clippers are going to be pretty good. I really do. I think they'll be in the playoff mix. Maybe a 6 seed, maybe in the play-in, in that kind of range. So it's typically tailored to a good team getting the sixth man of the year. So I feel like they'll be pretty good, and Norman Powell will eke it out over like a Malik Monk.
Yeah, he's a guy that just looking at his stats now, his scoring was down big last year. I don't fully know why. I guess they just had a lot of mouths to feed, like with Russ and
Yeah.
But yeah, his points he had 14 points per game last year, 17 the year before. The year before he was around 20, so it's gone down. But yeah, I think if he's scoring like probably 18 minimum, which is possible, I think that's doable for six man of the year if they're a good team and he's like playing every game, filling in when guys are out. I don't hate that. He's
Yeah, it's not like a
player.
yeah. I think so. It's not like a boring take either. He's not like super high on
No.
the awards list anyway. So I feel like most people would be like, oh, he's like surely in that mix. He's plus 1,100 for sixth man of the year.
Yeah.
It's not, it's pretty bold. And then next we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to be a huge pessimist here, just like you were for the Mavs, which is kind of crazy because the Timberwolves just made it very deep in the playoffs. They beat the Nuggets. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, eventually lost to the Dallas Mavericks. I think that doom is going to fall on the Timberwolves this season. I think they're going to fall into the play-in. They're the 16th. They were the 16th best team in offensive rating last year. Towns was a little bit more healthy than he is. I know than he typically is. He has injury issues constantly over the course of his career. I know he had one injury last year, but it wasn't like season impacting. And if that does happen, if some things go wrong for them, they lost a little guard depth in Monte Morris. And I'm not sold that Dillingham is like immediate answer. We just talked in the last pod about how you bring rookie guard in and they're not typically successful right away. He's going to be very inefficient, probably won't get many minutes. So they got actually worse. And Mike Conley is 36, almost 37 years old now. They have one future first left. It's the 2028. It's their 2028 first. That's it. I am concerned about them. They have no picks. Their pick haul is just gone. And if something negative happens, you could see them really scrambling, but with no assets to make anything happen. They went all in on Dillingham, who's a young player. You use that capital and you go get win now talent for your potential championship roster. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good point. And they're a team that kind of similar to other teams like Grizzlies, Pelicans. They've been drafting guys that have talent and have potential, like Leonard Miller and Josh Minot, but like haven't really shown anything yet. We heard a lot about how Leonard Miller is like the breakout deep sleeper of the last draft, and it's like, all right, well, play 10 minutes a game first before you really say anything. So it's like I think a lot of their success, especially after losing, they lost Slow-Mo and Monte Morris, who's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to need someone to be depth. They could use flashes from some of these young guys. So, yeah, I think that I went a little more positive. I believe in the Anthony Edwards hype, whether or not I believe that he's a top player in the NBA. I think he's going to be top 2 in MVP voting.
Wow.
And he was 7th last year, which is pretty high. You think he could overtake Brunson. Maybe Luka takes a step back, and it isn't as high. Maybe Tatum drops back. I think he's been the guy of the really young players who's taken the reins and become like a star. I know it seems like the NBA is kind of pushing him a lot. I think he gets an MVP before Wemby takes over. I think if they're a top 2 team or 3 team in the West and they're near 60 wins again, like he'll get a lot of love. I think his stats will go up. And yeah, I could see him being in the top 2 with probably Jokic or Shea. I don't know. I think he's going to take another jump in terms of just production and popularity. And I think star quality matters for MVP. We've seen kind of storylines take over, like Westbrook winning MVP after averaging a triple double, and then once he won MVP, no one cared about his stats. Like I think Edwards is the guy who has that narrative behind him. If he's averaging like 30 points per game, and they're just a good team, like he's inevitably going to be in the mix.
That's a good point with like the star power with him, like the flashes, the flashiness. You know, like it's similar to the like you said the Russ one. That's a good comp actually. I never thought about that. And he's been consistently getting better every single season, in like every category. He's been scoring more every year, doing it more efficiently. So I don't hate the take. It's just if their offense can work. They're 16th, like I said, in offensive rating last year.
Yeah.
And the Dallas Mavericks kind of broke them in a way. Like they broke their defense and they didn't have the firepower to kind of climb back into the game, into games. The Denver Nuggets, they're kind of built to beat teams like that. But when you play teams who can break their defense, I don't think they have the firepower necessarily around Edwards to maybe catch those teams when they kind of get ahead. Like maybe the Rockets go on a hot run, could potentially be a team that breaks the Timberwolves defense. So it's interesting. I could see it going either way. I'm not completely out, but they have the highest salary cap in the NBA. They have no picks. It could go south quick. Just this is one narrative that is possible.
And it feels like a guy like Tatum, for example, would never win MVP despite maybe deserving it and like despite being maybe the best player on the best team. Like Edwards fits that mold of a guy that maybe you see him winning an MVP and then never gets a ring, and it's like, well, he was kind of like a Harden. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point with their offense. Like Naz Reid shot the ball lights out last year. Conley, you got to think, is like declining. So that offensive rating is concerning.
That's true. How are the Thunder? What was the Thunder's record when Russ won it? Do you know? Like what seed they were?
With what?
When Russ won MVP, do you remember if they were like a high seed?
I'll look it up. If I recall, they were not a high seed.
That's what I thought too. Is the year KD was out, right? Like most of the year.
So it was 2017.
Or was it when KD was gone?
They were the 6th seed. They were 47-35. They lost first round, and KD was gone. Yeah,
that feels similar.
But to be fair to Russ, they had a pretty bad roster. Like, their team, they had young Sabonis, Andre Roberson, Oladipo, Cantor, Doug McDermott. So Ant has so much more talent around him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a crazy MVP year. And he averaged and it was like 32 points per game, 10 and 10. So it wasn't even like crazy number. It's crazy, but looking back, like it's not as crazy. It was ahead of its time, which is probably why he got MVP.
Yeah. It's just weird with the Wolves. Like I believe in Jaden McDaniels, obviously defensively, but he's a 33% 3-point shooter last season. Like, just I could see their guys who aren't like consistent 3-point shooters. They need Cats shooting like so much. I don't know. I'm just not entirely sold that it wasn't like a Cinderella type run last year.
Maybe Dillingham gives them that spark. Maybe he's exactly what they need, and we just don't see it yet.
Yeah, he was very like good passing wise in summer league. He averaged over 7 assists, but his efficiency was awful. I think he shot like 50% from the free throw line too, which is like kind of crazy. And then we can jump, if you're ready, we can jump to the Nuggets. Do you want to give me your take for the Nuggets?
Yeah, the Timberwolves arch nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
They're an interesting team because I believe in Jokic. Obviously they lost KCP and they need their young guys to step it up. So I'm sort of a believer in Peyton Watson. He's shown a lot defensively in limited minutes, in particular last year. So my take, it's very specific. I think he's going to be top 7 in defensive player of the year voting. I don't know about top 5, but I want it to be better, more bold than top 10. Top 7, I think is fair considering how much he's played. He's pretty raw still. Like I think that would be a huge step forward if he's just that highly rated. He's shown a lot defensively, but I think to play on that team, he needs a lot of his offense to improve. And I mean, yeah, KCP is gone. Like, I don't know what's that team gonna look like. I feel like they're kind of banking on him to be that guy that is kind of that Jalen McDaniels role. Jaden McDaniels, I'm sorry, the good McDaniels.
Yeah,
Like I feel like
the other one is so bad.
he's kind of turning that mold of like big three that hopefully can shoot somewhere near 40%, can give you clutch blocks, can just guard anyone. And I think with a player like Jokic, like if he has the effort and he puts the work in, he has potential to be like a core piece around Jokic. So I feel like his minutes should go up, and yeah, I kind of believe in him, and I think that's a good like I think his ceiling is high enough where he could be fighting for all defense teams.
So in your scenario, would he be the starting shooting guard or?
I think maybe sixth man, like I don't
Yeah,
know, maybe with a few starts here and there. I mean, I guess that is a good question. Like, do they start Christian Brown? Do they start? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do they? Yeah, they could. Could they start him, MPJ, and Gordon? It's kind of an ugly lineup.
yeah. I mean, they played him 1% of the time at shooting guard last year. 29% of the time at shooting guard in his rookie season. So it's possible he's big. He's 6'8". Like you said, he's more of like a wing. Can you run three wings, Jokic and Murray?
Probably not.
It's possible. Probably not. Maybe it's Brown's job. That's what I was thinking off the top of my head, but I don't really know how they're
They
going to
don't have a lot
organize.
of
It's
guys. I
weird.
mean, like Justin Holiday, is he just going to start? Like, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, Pickett has
Maybe.
been bad in summer league. Or no, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Has he? I get Pickett and Strother confused. I just feel like none of these.
Strother kind of went off
Yeah, Strother was
in
good.
summer
I
league.
think Pickett struggled. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, maybe they run DeAndre Jordan into two. Like they just go weird.
Yeah, but that is a testament to his actual basketball skill. He wasn't included in the summer league roster. Like he played real rotational minutes for them last year. He started 4 games, barely played any in the playoffs. Kind of phased out of the rotation um, in some of their playoff games. But I definitely like him as a rotational piece, and I think his minutes will probably be in the 20s this year. So it's definitely realistic.
And I think
My take for the
I not to interrupt, but like I'm a big believer. This is maybe corny to say, but I find it true. Like over the years, I'm a believer in the eye test. Like you
yeah
said, a great example is Jalen Suggs. Like you watch the Magic play, he's just like playing 10 million% at all times and like does everything right.
yeah
Like Peyton Watson, if you watch the Nuggets play, I mean, you saw them a lot in the playoffs. Like he makes some crazy plays. He's flying all over the court defensively. Like he's someone who you see it, like you could believe the upside just from watching. Like knowing nothing about basketball or analytics, you just watch him play, and it looks like he's doing crazy stuff. So, yeah, I like it.
yeah. It's crazy. He is like a shot blocker and gets enough steals too. Like he averaged per 30 if he like per 36 he both years he would have 2.1 blocks per game and over a steal per game. So he's definitely a aggressive defender. I like the way he plays a lot. Plays with a lot of ferocity. He's a good player. Definitely I like the Suggs shout out too because he's my guy. Um, the Nuggets, for me, I have Russell Westbrook will be top 5 in six man of the year voting this season for the Nuggets. Like we just talked about, the Nuggets lack that two guard. They're not super deep anymore. You got Sarge off the bench with Russ. Peyton Watson. I don't know who else they're going to be throwing. If Brown's in the starting lineup now, Russ should get his minutes, and they have a lot of stretchability with Jokic, Saric, Murray, Porter, Aaron Gordon. Everyone can shoot threes around Russ. It should be an offense where Jokic is looking for him on cuts, and he is also kind of controlling the offense at times too. So he should stuff the stat sheet and kind of be in the mix there. I'm not sold he'll be the sixth man. I don't think he will, but definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, I think Russ is playing on the Nuggets is going to be entertaining to watch because I don't really know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect. I don't know how much, you would think at this stage of his career he's going to be committed to playing team-oriented basketball. I don't know if he's going to be getting minutes, if he's going to be playing selfish offensively. So I feel like there's definitely potential there for him to get big minutes and to produce enough to like be in the mix for sixth man of the year. It's just a matter of how he fits into his role. I think the more I
Yeah.
think about it, I like Brown starting at the 2, and that makes sense. And then you kind of have these like Russ. They like what's his name, Vlatko, Konkar. Like they have kind of random
Oh yeah,
guys that they'll probably throw in.
Jokic's buddy.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Russ fits in. I like Russ, and I root for him to succeed, but I just don't. I don't know about the fit. I think it's fun at the very least.
Yeah, I think he'll mix in like with the starting unit at times too, and like you said, he'll be an energy piece with Peyton Watson. Like all these guys kind of come and playing really aggressively and fast, and that's kind of cool too. Um, it's interesting that like Jokic was like, I want Russ here, which means that he's not just a guy that's going to be like a DNP CD or play 10 minutes a game. Like he'll get his minutes, and I think we've always seen him be a stat stuffer, so I see no reason why he won't continue that. Do you want to wrap with the Thunder? Or
Yeah.
I think it's mine. So,
One more team. I
so
mean, we plowed through that.
yeah, we did. That was pretty good. One team left, the cream of the crop in the West as of last season, the Oklahoma City Thunder. My take for the Thunder is maybe not that bold. The Thunder will win over 60 games next season, led by their insane depth.
Yeah.
They signed Isaiah Hartenstein. They traded for Caruso, who's a defensive clamp. He's in the on FanDuel. He's one of the top odds people for odds for sixth man of the year. So they're
Caruso.
expecting him to come off the
Wow.
bench. Yes, Caruso, which is crazy. They're expecting him to come off the bench there. He shot over 40% from three last season. Hartenstein is, a different style of big than Chet Holmgren, so they can kind of mix and match there, which is pretty cool. And they just have so many guys: Shea, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. They're so insanely young, insanely deep. They're just getting a year older. They're super well coached, and I think they're the best team in the West as of right now. So I'm going 60 wins for them.
Who do you think, if Caruso came off the bench, who do you think they would start? Like Hartenstein and Chet, or like Aaron Wiggins sneakily starting?
Um, so it would be. Oh yeah, that is interesting.
Shea, Dort, Jalen, Chet. I mean,
Yeah, it's weird because six man of the year odds, Caruso's number three in six man of the year odds.
yes.
So,
Maybe they
and
will.
Chet Holmgren's played.
Yeah.
He's never played center. He's never played power forward a single minute in his career yet. So that would have to be a belief in that, or would it be? It'd be Shea. It'd be Dort at the two, right? It'd be Jalen Williams at the three or the four, Chet, and then I don't know who would be their other guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. My take is actually Alex Caruso related, and I feel good
Let's
about
hear
it.
it.
Alex Caruso is going to lead the league in 3-point shooting percentage. For
Wow.
context, he was tied for 31st last year in shooting percentage, shooting 40.8, so pretty solid. That shows you
Yeah.
how many good shooters there are. And now he's on an offense with Shea, like we said, Jan Williams, Chet, spacing with the guys on the bench like Case and Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins. All three of them were shooting really high percentage from three last year. Maybe we get Usman Jang shooting like 20% from three. Baby steps. And you look at that team. You look at the OKC offense. Then you look at the Bulls offense from last year, where he was their best shooter, and he still shot almost 41%. I think he's going to be like that Drew Holiday, just always taking open threes, always just ready to like have a clutch shot. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. He's a guy, another guy. We've talked about the guys that improve and like you trust to kind of grind and know their role. I just feel like he's going to be improving. Like he's going to be working on his threes. He's going to be open a lot. And I think that's a good, that's a big jump. If you can go to like 45%, 46%, I don't think that's crazy. And I think, yeah, obviously we know they got him mainly for his defense, but it seems inevitable that maybe the scoring doesn't take a big jump, but he'll be more efficient, I think. And the Bulls just had the worst spacing, the worst three-point shooting. Like he'll completely different offense.
Exactly. Like you have a usage beast in Shea, and then you have four shooters around him. Caruso will be open at times. They're going to be trying to lock up Jalen Williams, lock up other guys, and I feel like he'll get his threes. So I like that take a lot. It's so weird. I'm trying to think about why that the odds is the odds on that. Maybe it's Case and Wallace. They think will
I was
start.
going to say that, and he didn't put up big numbers, but he shot really high from three, and he was already a really strong defender, like guarding opposing basketball. Like he could be starting. And I know they liked him. I know people were saying maybe he would take over like the Lou Dort role in the lineup, but I could see him at the two, just doesn't with Dort and with maybe Caruso comes off the bench.
Jalen, yeah. I mean, I would believe that FanDuel kind of knows what they're talking about there in other odds books. So, yeah, interesting. I like that take a lot.
Is it like Monk and Naz Reid still? Are you looking at the odds?
Yeah. It's Monk. It's plus 500. Nasrid at plus 650, and then it's like five guys tied for plus 1100. And Caruso, Clarkson, Powell, Hart, Karis LeVert, etc. Russ is down at plus 3200, so it's a spicy one for me there.
That is a spicy one. Wow.
If he does, if he gets in the mix, I mean, he seems pretty far down. It's decent odds.
Yeah, OKC just doesn't have a lot of holes. Like it was hard to try to make a negative take. Like I don't see them taking a step back at all. I could easily see them being the one seed again. So I think they're kind of scary.
Yeah, they got better in every department, and they're super young, and they're just getting better, like in terms of development. And they traded and added two different style players for their team too, which really, really help Caruso, Hartenstein. I had another take for the Thunder just as a bonus, and you mentioned my guy Ousmane Dieng, and I think he'll thrive. I think somewhere next season, I don't know if it'll be on the Thunder, if their wings get hurt or something, or if he gets traded, but I think somewhere he will thrive and become someone that's looked on more fondly in the NBA amongst basketball purists like ourselves. Because he is very good defensively, just needs to get his shooting percentages up. He kind of like play point forward too. Like he gets a lot of assists and fun guy to watch.
Wow, I just saw breaking news. Killian signed somewhere. Where would you guess he just signed?
Oh, there was rumors he was going somewhere. Is it the team that he was rumored to go to?
I'm not familiar with the rumors, but it's a fit that makes sense.
Ooh.
Wow.
Give me a hint. Is it like a win now team or a young team?
It is absolutely not a win now team.
Fit that makes sense. Not a win now team. Let me just pull up the standings. Is it the Bulls?
The Bulls.
Right
Is
it the Wizards?
It is not the Wizards. Right ballpark.
The Nets. The Nets.
It
the
is
Nets.
the Brooklyn Nets.
Gotta be.
And actually, for those of you at
Third
home,
time's the charm.
I recently started a 2K franchise with the Brooklyn Nets. I had Killian Hayes. I have updated rosters. I had Killian as a free agent, and I signed him. So, I mean, what are we doing here with the podcast? We got to be running a franchise. We know what we're doing.
That's what I've been saying too. You know, I turned around an orphan team in my Sports WS league with 30-team league in 2 years. After 2 seasons, I won the championship. I started with one of the most barren rosters ever. So, if you're listening, if you're in the NBA, if you run a franchise, if you work for a franchise, please give me a call.
Shout out to the homies Kev Samhart and Ralber, our inspiration. Yeah, I mean, that felt good. Killian Hayes to the Nets. He deserves a shot. He wasn't terrible. He was overhated.
I think so. I think overhated as well. It's like a guy who the public soured on too fast. Like it was like sometimes players like they get hype and then they become overrated, and sometimes they get underrated, and he's someone who was just hated on so much to a point where I feel like he's become underrated. He's a rotational piece somewhere. He's so good defensively and, just not a very efficient scorer.
Yeah, he's a guy who many, what's his name? Kevin O'Connor. A lot of NBA guys are high on him, and then he kind of flopped. So I always root for those guys, nothing to lose.
I love my French guys. Jang, Hayes, Wemby, Sarr.
Fournier.
He's like the leading French scorer of all time or something.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Something crazy. But yeah, if you got to run, we can wrap.
Well, that was a great episode.
If you're ready. Yeah, it's fun. Thank you so much to everyone for listening to the podcast. I'm your host, Justin Coben, and that's my co-host over there, Marco Amendola. We love bringing this to you guys every Monday, every Friday. Thanks everyone who subscribed so far. Hopefully by the time this comes out, we're going to be above the 20 subscriber mark. We're hoping. Please make that happen. If you get to this point in the video, just click it. It's free. Click like as well for us. We're going to be trying to release shorts as we can. You can find us on Twitter at another B-ball pod, at another basketball page is the title of the page. Yeah, there's not much else to say. Marco, thanks so much for joining me today. Everyone, take care. Thanks for listening.